Today I wanted to show you guys how I make my spinach artichoke dip. This is a fantastic appetizer or side dish. It's a great thing to make when you have family coming over or if you're going to a potluck. It's always a win. Everybody always loves it, and it's so easy to make. The whole thing only took about an hour, and half of that was in the oven. So it's really easy. All you need is a can of vegetables and a bag of frozen spinach. We like to eat this with these gluten-free crackers. We are not actually a gluten-free household. We just found that these are the best with this. You can use tortilla chips or pita bread or whatever you like, but these Milton's crackers are really fantastic. And everything in the dip is also gluten-free. It's just a bunch of cheese and a couple vegetables. So this is totally gluten-free, celiac friendly, and it's super delicious. This is something that we make every once in a while when we are going to be spending some time with family, or if we've got people coming over to watch a football game or something. This is always a win. The very first thing we're going to do is we're just going to get a few things prepped. I took my cream cheese out of the fridge about 20 minutes ago so that it can start to soften. We need this really soft because we're going to mix everything into it. And I'm just using one 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And I've got a bag of frozen spinach here. And this is a chopped spinach. You don't have to use a chopped spinach. If you like bigger pieces, you can get bigger pieces. This is just what was available at my store. And then I'm going to aim for probably 6 to 8 ounces of this spinach. And all I'm doing is I'm setting it in a strainer, and I'm going to set this over a bowl. This spinach needs to thaw, and then we're going to squeeze as much liquid out of it as possible. And doing it over in a strainer over a bowl just makes that a little bit easier. And then the very last thing we're going to do is chop up our artichoke. This is also going to need to be drained pretty well. I'm actually going to go ahead and just take these out and set them right onto a paper towel so that I can kind of start squeezing the water out right away. And we are going to use the whole can. I'm sure you can use fresh spinach and I'm sure you can use fresh artichoke, but I've only ever made this with frozen spinach and canned artichoke, and it turns out great every single time. So I don't see any point in giving myself more work when this is fantastic as is. If you like bigger pieces of artichoke, then you don't have to do this chopping part. We just like to have a little bit smaller pieces in this dip. So I'm just giving this a super rough chop. All right, and that is it. I'm going to get started on our cheese mixture, and then we will squeeze out our spinach and get everything else mixed in. So for our cheese, we're going to use about 2/3 of a cup of grated Parmesan. If you have a super fine shredder, you can throw this in the shredder too, but it's pretty important that it's a really fine shred. So I'm using a grater because I've only got a big shredder. So about 2/3 of a cup of Parmesan, and then I'm also going to add about 1/2 a cup of shredded mozzarella. And that was right around 3-ish ounces. If you want a little bit more of that stretchy cheesy pull, add a little bit more mozzarella. If you don't want any extra of that, then just don't add any extra. And then straight into the bowl, I'm going to add my super soft cream cheese. And I'm just going to mix all of these cheeses together, and then we will add a little bit of our seasonings and our vegetables. Our cheese is mostly mixed together. I'm going to go ahead and add in everything else. We're going to add in just about 1/4 cup of sour cream. and then about a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, and then about a teaspoon of garlic paste. I usually use garlic powder for this, but I have this paste, so I thought I would use it up. For garlic powder, I would add in probably about 1/2 teaspoon. I'm gonna add in just a tiny little bit of salt, just a pinch, and then a couple generous pinches of black pepper. And we're gonna give that one more mix. Now from here, our cheese and most of our ingredients are mixed together. The last two things to add are just the spinach and the artichoke. My spinach has been defrosting on the counter. It is mostly thawed, so I'm just going to squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible. You can use a cheesecloth for this. You can do this however you like. I think that your hands are the best tools in your kitchen, and so this is just the way I do it. And it's really important that you really do squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible. If you have too much liquid in this dip, then it's just going to be super thin and runny. And it's okay if it kind of all gets clumped together. It'll fluff up and break apart as you're mixing it. All right, spinach is in, and then we're actually going to do the same thing for our artichoke. This should be mostly squeezed out. Yeah, these are fine. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of throw all of this in. If you find any leaves that are a little bit tougher, I like to leave those out because they just don't, they're a little chewier and they just don't mix in very nicely. Everything has come together pretty nicely, but I've still got a little bit of the cream cheese mixture that's just not coming up off the bottom of the bowl. So I'm going to switch to a rubber spatula and get everything really well incorporated. And stirring this is definitely going to take a little bit of effort. Since the spinach is all clumped up and since you've got the big pieces of the artichoke, stirring this together is definitely going to take just kind of a little extra effort. All right, I'm really happy with this consistency. It's super thick, and you can see the spinach and the artichoke really are evenly mixed in. I am going to go ahead and grease my pan, my baking dish here. This is a 1-quart baking dish. This is about the size you'll need for this much dip. And I'm just putting a little bit, maybe 1/2 teaspoon of oil here. And then I'm just going to spread it around all the way up the walls as well. And then this dip just goes right in. And I like to push it down, make sure that it's about even in the pan. And at this point, if you want to top it with more cheese, or if you want to, put some more mozzarella, whatever, Parmesan on top of this, now is a great time to do that. I don't generally do anything like that because I think it's fine as is. All right, and that is everything. Into the oven we go. This has been baking in my oven at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. And I can see that it's not quite as thin as I want it to be. It'll kind of thin out as it heats up. If you are using an electric oven, this is probably about all the time you need, 20 minutes. Since I'm using a gas oven, those tend to take a little bit longer. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in for another 15 minutes and then I'll come back to check on it. So this was in my oven for 15 more minutes, so a total of 35 minutes in the oven, and I can see that it's done. The whole thing is heated all the way through, and it's thinned out a little bit, which is absolutely perfect. This smells so good. Cheers. It's a little hot. I didn't let it cool down at all. This is so good and it's so easy, and if you're using an electric oven, it is quite a bit faster than if you're using a gas oven. This just comes together so quick and easy. You get a couple vegetables in for the day and it's absolutely delicious. I would call this pretty kid friendly. One of my nieces really loves to eat this on French fries. Otherwise, we just use crackers. You can use tortilla chips, you can use pita bread, you can use, I don't know, baguette. You can use probably just about anything you want, and this is going to be great no matter what you use it with.